Hello. It's Monday. Monday. I hope you're all doing well. Hi, Ruth. Come on in. You're going to be so glad you're here when I read to you what I have to read to everyone. You're going to be so happy. Since we were talking about mascots a week or so ago, last week I think. Yeah, you're gonna be so happy. Oh, I'm glad you're here. I hope you've had a good day. I hope you've had a really good day. It is cooling off here finally, and we are feeling fall-ish. Now, if we could just get rid of the dust that's coming off the road in front of our house, that would be excellent. It's not roll tide, Ruth, but I know you're going to be so happy because I'm going to educate you. Hi, Linda. Hello, Linda. Oh, my goodness. I have been trying to do two things. One, I'm trying to get my rooms sorted out. I've only lived here for a year. But I've been moving out of the other house for probably 8 or 9 months of that year. Hi, Terry. Hey, Rhonda. You've had a great day. Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, light jacket is my kind of weather. Anyway, I've been trying to get moved out of my house, and which means downsizing my house, because I had a lot of stuff that needed to be downsized. Claus Man and all of his infinite wisdom left me, not by his choice, but the downside of whatever, of him leaving this earth when he did, is I got stuck with all of the stuff to make decisions about. And I'm like, ooh, it's the worst. Anyway, I am now down to the very last pieces of furniture. And you know how you have those tugs inside where you're like, I should let it go. And then you go, I don't want to let it go. I should let it go. I don't want to let it go, but I don't have a place to put it. What should I do? It's that kind of stuff. Anyway, I found places for 2 more pieces of furniture that is like storage stuff. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so I've gotten both of those moved over here. But in order to get one of them in here in the broadcast area in this room, I had to move a whole bunch of stuff out. When you have to move a whole bunch of stuff out, it has to go somewhere. You know what I mean? So it's the old adage of you got to make a mess to get organized. Oh. Anyway, yeah. 60 degrees there. That's what I think it was this morning here, Terry. It was just great. It was wonderful. We have Terry Stouffer and Terry S. I assume those are 2 different Terrys. Am I right? Yeah, he can't leave you with all the stuff. And you know what? That's what they do sometimes. Oh no, your husband's aunt is giving all the stuff to you? Oh. Yeah. 2 Terrys. Hey, 2 Terrys with the S on the end. Help you, Rhonda. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do to help you. I had so many people's stuff come into my life. This has nothing to do with what we're going to do tonight or what I'm going to read to you. But Claus Man did things like he worked for a lot of different people, and he helped a lot of different people. Mostly people like me, widow. Fortunately, now I'm not a widow, but I was. But he helped a lot of these older women, which I hate to admit that's the category I fall into, but it is the truth. He helped a lot of these older women with when their husbands would pass away or become ill. He would help them move stuff, as well as fix up. He did a variety of things. He remodeled people's living spaces to make them usable when somebody had to take care of someone else. He also helped clear out tools and all that kind of stuff, and some of these women gave him stuff. So that came into our house. This was from multiple different people. And then there was his parents died, and then we got stuff from that, and his grandparents and my parents. Oh my goodness. It just, you just get to a point where you're like, I can't. If I have to see one more metal tape, retractable tape, when I was going through the garage and through all the tools, I donated, I think I counted 25 or 30, the retractable measuring tapes, you know what I mean? The metal ones. That was just, and the bungee cords, and and the screwdrivers and the pliers and the clamps we had clamps. Well, if you're doing the kind of work that he did, it's understandable. But little old me doesn't need clamps of this long, this long, this long, this long. Little tiny one. You don't need, and multiples of all of it. Anyway, I'm down to the last bits and pieces of things. But I'm also at the point of going, I'm almost at that point of going, I don't care what's left. Somebody just come get it. Which may happen, I don't know. A house husband is exactly what, and that is what Claus Man was. He was the house husband for many of these clients. Oh man. I remember telling the guy that came to do a bunch of repairs, because Claus Man had let go of doing all the repairs. I remember the guy that came to work to do the repairs at my house because they'd been let go for so long. And the first thing I said to him was, "You are officially my house husband." And I thought he was just going to have a stroke. He looked at me like I was crazy. Well, there's truth to that. But yeah, my friend who lost her husband 6 months before mine, and I decided that we needed a car husband, a house husband, a yard husband. The guy that did all my mowing and stuff at the house, I told him, I said, you're my yard husband. And he kind of looks at me and goes, oh, okay. It was fine with him. Anyway, you guys. Funny. Oh, that's funny. My maiden name was Smith also, Terry. You're ready to call 1-800-JUNK. Yeah, you might have to. You're in St. Louis. Oh, you're not very far from me. That's great. Okay, enough of the chit-chat. I want to read this to you, then we're going to get busy, okay? Hopefully my voice is going to hold out in good shape. We're going to do a couple of different things tonight, I think, because I think we're going to need more than one thing to do. If not, we'll just do one. I don't know. I have two ready to go. And in the description box below the video are the links to the stuff that we're working on. They are free downloads. You can go get them if you want them. There's a house, a little tree house, a little gnome tree house, which is, I'm putting it on a journal for a holiday. December daily, except it's going to start in November journal. I'm going to do a December daily journal that's going to start at Thanksgiving and end after the new year. So go figure. Anyway, there's that, and there's also the gnomes. Okay? So you can do that. If you want them, you can download them, click the links. There's no charge, no nothing. Ruth says she was driving down the road. The hub saw a pair of channel locks in the road. He stopped and sent me to get them. I grabbed them from the middle of the road, hopped back in the car, and we went home. That sounds like Claus Man. He could scan a garage sale as we drove by. I don't like garage sales. I don't go to garage sales. I've had one garage sale in my whole life. And it was too much work and didn't make enough money to be worth it. And you still end up with a whole bunch of junk that you have to do something with. So garage sales and I don't get along, period. Never have. My mother-in-law, my grandmother-in-law, on the other hand, loved garage sales, and their houses showed it. Anyway, it's a whole other story. But he could drive past a garage sale and know whether they had tools and know whether they had stuff that he wanted to stop and look at. And I'm just like, I'm trying to watch the road. I'm not looking for the garage sales. I'm not looking for the trash. but he was. And he did get some good stuff, I can't argue with him. Okay. I'm Barb. Welcome to Drama Free Creating tonight on a Monday night. I own HowToGetCreative.com, and so anyway, let's get moving. So this came from a magazine, a local magazine. It's called The Man, the Myth, the Mascot. Catching Up with the Big Cat on Campus. Here it is, okay? The Man, the Myth, the Mascot. And I'm going to read this to you because it is just a cute and interesting article. This is actually how it was in the magazine. I will show you. I ripped it out of the magazine. I don't know if you can see it or not. I should just tape it back together. There you go. Yeah. Okay. You ready? Okay. You know him, you love him. The happy-go-lucky Bengal tiger we see on the football field doing cartwheels, the splits, and even parachuting from a jet is a Columbia celebrity. He's animated and walks like he has springs for joints. He keeps spirits high when the scoreboard is low. He's an integral part of Mizzou athletics and a tradition that traces all the way back to the 1860s. The name Tigers was originally given to a union of citizens during the Civil War who protected Columbia from looming threat of a Confederate attack. The ambush never came, as Confederate leader Bill Anderson ordered his troops to navigate around Columbia to avoid the intrepid Missouri Tigers. The name stuck. So, how did we move from that menacing figure to the big-eyed, jovial tiger we know today? Until 1981, the university's mascots were Big Tiger and Lil Tiger. Now, I don't even remember that. I was very busy from 1973 when I got married until 1981. I was a very busy mother. I got married in 73, inherited a 10-year-old stepdaughter. 2.5 years later, we had, 2 years later, we had our son. 2.5? Anyway, 2 years later. It's been so long ago, I can't even tell you. So I was really busy in there. I had a teenager and a baby at the same time, and yeah, it was crazy. And then one of them went to college and the other one went to kindergarten the same year. Life was very strange and very crazy. Okay, so I don't remember any of that. Anyway, here we go. Continuing on. Big Tiger and Little Tiger. But the decision was made to consolidate them into one. Now, don't you know that hacked off one of those tigers, and probably the little one? Named for the only president from Missouri. In 1986, the Truman, that's his name now, the Truman we know today was designed and introduced. Truman the Tiger then skyrocketed in popularity, eventually going on to win 2 national titles. I don't know what kind of titles those are, but he won 2 of them. But this wouldn't be possible without strong leadership. Former head cheerleading coach Susie Thompson spent decades, okay, I love this part, spent decades, that's more than 10 years, decades means at least 2 multiples of 10, right? I can't even imagine this. She spent decades filling in Truman's stripes with Sharpie. Filling in the stripes with Sharpie when they faded, acting as handler and keeping the childlike wonder surrounding Truman alive. But the most rewarding part of her career, Thompson said, wasn't the trophies, although those were pretty great, too. It was the students she worked with. They're just good kids, Thompson says of her student athletes who donned the Truman suit. These are kids who want to be there. They don't want recognition. It takes a special breed of person to do this. If it takes a special person to do this job, how do they choose? Who has the Truman factor? Who has the Truman factor? I never thought about that. Thompson says when she would audition potential Trumans, she would look for sincerity. She looked for dedication and strong discipline, as Truman is not as easy as an easy role in the slightest. You have no idea how hot it is in that suit, Thompson laughs. So what makes a Truman? Someone with dedication, spirit, and ambition. Maybe it's someone who attended a football game as a child and thought, that's what I want to do. Or maybe it's someone who initially never gave being a mascot a thought. When John Lyman was a student at Rockbridge High School and his mother suggested he try out to be the Bruin, it was a resounding no from Lyman. But when he attended college, his now wife, then a Mizzou cheerleader, urged him to try out for Truman. The Bruin was the high school mascot, and he said no. But Truman, because the cheerleader suggested, Mom suggested one, the cheerleader suggested the other, cheerleader won. It took a bit of convincing before he was in the suit. Lyman went on to spend 3 years as Truman and fondly recalls the experience of spreading joy to Mizzou fans, partaking in parades, and even visiting the Whiteman Air Force. Wait a minute, let me find here we go. Air Force Base. He says being Truman gave him the communication and time management skills that could only come from the experience of being a full-time athlete and student with a job. Being in that suit teaches you to communicate without talking, Lyman explains. It's a great skill to have. Just think about that. Communicate without talking. That is a skill. Now, the Truman alumnus is on the Columbia School Board and works at Veterans United, still deeply involved in the community. When he attends a football game with his family or runs into Truman at an event, he'll reflect on the experience he had. My kids will say, there he goes, Dad, again on his Truman thing. Lyman says, but if we're at a football game, I'm also watching the game, and I'm also watching what Truman's doing. It's like second nature. Another Truman alumnus, Dan Mears, wears a suit to work. That might be where his career's similarities to yours end. In 1986, Mears started out as Truman the Tiger, unaware that his choice would propel him to becoming one of the most beloved and longest tenured mascots in the professional sports world. Throughout his time at Mizzou, Muse traveled the country as Truman and took first place at the 1989 College Mascot Championships. I didn't know there was such a thing, did you? After graduation, Muse was brought on board as Fred Bird with the St. Louis Cardinals. But the rigorous schedule of Major League Baseball left little breathing room. When Muse departed from the MLB, his next adventure would define his career. In June of 1990, Muse was something of an experiment for the Kansas City Chiefs. They designed a costume hoping to find someone to fill the size 23 shoes of the KC Wolf as their first full-time local mascot. Muse quickly put on his experience with Truman, put it to work, becoming the Energizer Bunny of the Chiefs fan base. He was the first NFL mascot inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame. Did you know there was that? And is the only mascot in the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. Muse is also the author of 2 books, and I thought you guys, if any of you are interested in sports or mascots or cheerleading or any of that, might be interested in his books. 2 books, Mascot on a Mission and Wolves Can't Fly. So it's Mascot on a Mission and Wolves Can't Fly. The first is a reflection on Muse's worldwide philanthropic efforts and living a purposeful life. The second is an autobiography sharing the journey of his career. The profits from both books are all donated to philanthropies of Muse's choice. And then it goes on, but I'm going to stop with that. And he was the Kansas City Wolf for the Chiefs for 25 years, I think it is. So I won't go on. But anyway, here he is. Look at the shoes. Yeah, and there's another shot of Truman. Anyway, I just thought that was just crazy and interesting. Yeah. Okay, so there you go. I didn't bore you with the whole thing, but I just thought that was kind of fun. You do believe that there's something for everyone? Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah, Ruth says, makes you wonder how the Sharpie smell affected her. It's so true. Okay, enough. Let's take a look at our little tree here. Alrighty. So here we are. This originally, and I've played around with this a little bit. This originally was painted in watercolor, and then I've been playing around up here just to see what I could do to change the color and make it more interesting. And so I thought that we would do that, do more of that. And I know that many of you have seen this technique, but maybe not everybody has seen this technique. So I'm using Prismacolor pencils. Okay, I have an assortment of greens, some yellows, some golds, some browns, and a dark gray. This is 90% cool gray, this one, so it's a very dark gray. And so these are all Prismacolor pencils, which are wax-based colored pencils. I also have in this tiny little jar, it's a pimento jar, and you can, it's kind of overkill because some of it a little bit more glopped into my jar than I intended to. Has odorless paint thinner, and that is what this is. So this happens to be Masterpiece odorless paint thinner. Just because it says it's odorless does not mean it doesn't have fumes. And so even though you can't smell it, does not mean it won't affect you. So if you have any breathing issues of any kind of respiratory anything, be really careful with that. Also, it's good if you can have on a fan and to stir the air to blow. It's like kind of like working with alcohol inks, except most of the time you can smell the alcohol inks. You can't really smell odorless paint thinner. The clue is in the name. So I have put, you don't need nearly as much as I have in here. You can see it kind of sloshing around in the jar. You don't need nearly as much as I have in there. However, what I have in there are 2 little pieces of sponge, like cellulose sponge. And I'm also going to be using some blending stumps. There are different kinds of blending tools. This is my favorite. This is like compressed paper as opposed to the ones where the paper is wound. I prefer these. And once you get the pigment on here, which we'll be doing, I'm kind of going a little bit backwards here because I'm going to show you what we're going to do, and then we're going to actually play around with it. I have different blending stumps here. Let's see, I'm looking for the green one. This is it. And I usually have a paper towel available. And so what you do is, I don't really need the green one. Let's use, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Just touch the blending stump on the wet sponge, which is wet with paint thinner, odorless paint thinner. You just touch it and pick up a little bit, and in these windows I have a little bit of shading. And so what this does is it just kind of melts that wax from the wax base from the colored pencil. I'm going to come in really close so you can really see. So it melts that wax and it blends it into the background. And I wasn't sure whether it would affect the watercolor underneath or not, but it didn't seem to do that. Now I'm really super close here. Hopefully, I don't know if you can see what it's doing or not. I am so zoomed in that it may not even look to you like it's doing anything. However, it really is. And when I zoom back out, when I come back out, hopefully you'll be able to see that it's a little softer and blendier looking. Okay, so that is what I've done up here on the star. So I have blended around the star. You can see the yellow in the middle, and then you can see the browner edges. This just gives a little suggestion that our windows, that there's somebody inside. Hey, Amber, it's okay, no worries. And I have blended, I've put down several colors of green, and you hopefully can see that this section up here looks like a little bit like the tree, which is a pretend tree. Has the sections are a little kind of fluted looking, maybe. Yeah, doesn't move the black lines, it doesn't move anything, honestly, except it moved the colored pencil. And I've done something similar down here, so to this point, you can see that these stones are different than these. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to play around with this, and then we may try to decorate the tree a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this works. We may save decorating the tree till Friday. I don't know. Let's just see. Hi, Connie. Let's just see. Okay. So I'm going to pick up here. I snuck up on the colors. I put a lot of colors together up there in this tree because, or this section of it, because I thought, oh, I should wait and see how that's going to work. Down here, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go for it. Okay. So I will tell you the colors I'm picking up, and then I don't know that it makes a whole lot of difference to you, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm picking up olive green. I don't work with real sharp pencils. I prefer having them dull, more dull, but that's personal preference for me. You do what you're comfortable with. All right, so I'm going to come out here, and I'm not going to put a lot of pressure. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see. I'm using very little pressure, and I'm just coloring in little circles. And where I'm working is in the area where the line dips into the tree. I don't know how to describe this sometimes. And I'm thinking about the branches, kind of, since it's a pretend tree, as though this was the point that the branches are aiming toward. Okay, that's what I'm thinking about. So I'm going to skip the window and just kind of carry this on up lightly. Find the next little place that seems like it would be a logical place for a branch, and they don't need to be straight lines. They can be kind of have some character. This, after all, this is where the gnomes live, and so it should have a wonk factor. Again, little circles. Don't push too hard with your colored pencils, because you will burnish the color, burnish the pigment down onto the paper, and then it becomes a lot harder to blend. So I'm just putting, and this is olive green. Okay, so we have some green. Then I'm going to come up here where this this branch section tucks under the upper one, and I'm just going to add a little bit more green all across there on the lower section. And then I'm going to go to, let's see, where's my dark green? I have lost my dark green pencil. Hold on a second. Let me find it. This was olive green. Yes. That's the gray. Well, I have a dark green pencil here somewhere. We're just going to grab this one. It must be hiding. Oh, it is. Hiding. Okay, here we go. So this one is dark green. And all these are Prismacolors. There are all different kinds of colored pencils. And on this one, with the dark green, I'm not covering as much area as I covered with the olive green. I'm just putting a little bit here and there. Still light pressure. and less area to cover with the dark green. Okay, so you can see it pretty well there. All right, let's put a little bit of pigment in our windows. So let's go to, I'm going to use Sienna Brown. And that's light umber. That's not the color I wanted. I want Sienna Brown. That's what this color is. You can use whatever color you want, but those are the colors that I'm the most familiar with because I use these on my cloth dolls for their faces. And I'm going to put just a little bit of Sienna Brown on top of the yellow in the windows, so it will have a little bit of shading in there. I'm not going to go all the way around the windows, just kind of on across the top, down one side, and across the bottom, because I don't want to turn the window brown. Okay, I need to leave some space there. Okay, so there we go with that. I'm going to open my paint thinner again, and I'm going to keep it capped when I'm not using it. Okay, I'm going to keep the lid on it when I'm not using it. And I'm looking for which... Alright, I think this is it. I'm going to just touch my sponge that has the paint thinner on it, put the lid back on the paint thinner, and then again, circular motion. And as you go, hopefully you can see that it is melting the colored pencil, and it just blends it in. There are artists who are colored pencil artists that would never do this, that will only blend with one pencil on top of another. And that is wonderful. But this is just a little fun journal thing that I'm doing, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life on this little tree. I really don't. I just want to get her done. It just smooths out the pencil, blends it out. And it may kind of turn everything similar shades of green, because I'm using the same shades of green on the various levels of the branches. And but you can see how this is smoother than this. And if it stops blending, if your blending stops blending, then just go back and touch the sponge again with your blending stump in your odorless paint thinner. Do keep the lid on it though. Don't leave that stuff just wide open. Much better if you keep the lid on it and have ventilation in your room. Okay? So hopefully you're beginning to see some of the, kind of the undulating, the rise and fall of the branches, so that you have some different color variation, shadow versus light, to create movement. Now it is kind of a scratchy sound, so if that's a chalkboard on the fingernails on the chalkboard kind of sensation for you, then you may want to mute me. Okay, I'm going to pick another blending stump that's kind of got kind of the red tones, reddish, brownish, and let's blend the shading inside the windows. And then once the paint thinner has evaporated out of your paper, because this is just watercolor paper, you can come back in and add another coat of pencil. And you can make, get different effects. With more shading, and you can actually even put some highlighting in. I'm not going to worry too much about getting these absolutely smooth in the windows. This is cold pressed watercolor paper, and so it is textured. I'm going to put wreaths and stuff in the windows, and so I'm not worried too much about that being. And besides that, this is glass that the gnomes are. I don't think they have good glass in their windows. I really don't. So I think that I'm not going to worry about perfection in the type of glass they have in their windows. I'm going to add a little bit while I'm here. I'm going to add just a little bit of this color is cream. I'm going to put a little bit of cream in the lightest areas in the windows. I don't know that that'll make a whole big difference, but you know what? It might. So let's put a little bit there. It might make them light up a little bit more. And you can come back if you need to, or to have the desire to, and use the paint thinner on those to smooth those out, or you can just leave them alone. I'm going to leave them alone. I might add just a wee bit more brightness to my branches on my tree here, because I think that's probably dried out. On the high spots, I may just put a little bit of this. This color is chartreuse. And just see if we can brighten it up just here and there. With this yellow green. And it's all for the purpose of getting movement. So it's not just flat color. Okay, let's see if we can smooth that out just a little bit. Elton was not feeling good this weekend. Whoo-wee, the man was not feeling good this weekend. I'll tell you what. Yep, he was not feeling good this weekend. He had I told him he had the croup. Boy, did he cough, whew. And then he was afraid he was going to give it to me, but I think it all came from, we have so much dust out here on our road right now. They've rerouted a whole bunch of traffic down the road in front of our house. And these people out here drive like idiots. Idiots, I tell you. Absolute idiots. Okay, there's the top tier. There's the bottom tier. Okay, we're going to go straight to dark green on this one. Straight to dark green. Where is it? And let's see if we can make this row of branches look even different from the two above, just because I would like to see if we can get a real difference in the way that it looks. Okay. kind of aiming again towards the middle of the tree. And there's some, definitely some, whatever you call that, where the watercolor does its thing there. Watermark? No. What is that called? One of you guys that works with watercolor more than I do, tell me what that's called when it does this, where you end up with those lines. What's that called? Somebody in the chat will know. The name, the technical term escapes me at the moment. Totally escapes me. Blooms. Thank you. It's exactly what it is. It's watercolor bloom. Where it makes those lines and stuff, which is part of the charm of watercolor. But if you don't want that to happen, you have to have better paper than I have, and you can control it with practice and good paper and the amount of water that you use. I don't care enough, truthfully. The truth comes out. I don't care enough to practice to get to where I can control that sort of thing. So I don't, I just don't. Okay, so we have our kind of our branches happening. I'm going to put a little bit of this up here. So that we can kind of get this level of branches to tuck in under the ones up there. And while I'm doing this, this isn't tucking in very well, so I'm going to put a little bit more of this dark green up here. I may put a little bit of brown up there also. And put a little bit more up here under the star. And then maybe pick up a little bit of that dark brown. Is this dark brown? Yes. And put a little bit of that up here, just to see if we can get a little bit more shadow happening from the top level of the branches coming down. Add a little bit more of the brown, dark brown. Now I'm not putting as much as I put with the dark green because I still want to maintain some variety. Okay? Okay, good enough. Let's blend. All right, and so let's go to the green. So back to the odorless paint thinner, and let's come up here and we'll blend from the top down. You need to kind of let the paint thinner dissolve or dry out or do whatever it does in order to be able to tell what the color is actually doing for sure. But see how you get a little bit more definition between those two rows. So there you go. That's what I'm talking about. So just re-dip your blending stump and just touch it to the paint thinner every so often. Don't soak it. You don't want to get so much. If you get it dripping in paint thinner, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna be happy. So as with most things, err on the side of caution a little bit. Now, if you happen to be one of my people who has taken Mining Your Muse with me or have done any doll face on fabric techniques, don't use paint thinner. Do not use this technique on fabric. Okay, this is paper only. When you're working with the Prismacolor pencils on fabric, those you want to just use the pressure and heat from your finger to blend in circular motion, and the colored pencils will blend into the fabric. You don't need, absolutely do not need to use paint thinner on fabric. Bad idea. And as I said, these are my favorite blending stumps. I like these. These are the compressed paper, as opposed to, there are two main types that I'm aware of. One is this kind, that where the paper is compressed, and you can actually I've sharpened these in pencil sharpener, hand crank pencil sharpener before. But most of the time I find that I don't really need it. I don't do the kind of work where I need it to be super sharp tip. And I don't use real sharp tips on my colored pencils either, unless I'm working on a doll face, and then sometimes I need to have a sharper tip. Okay, if you have any questions, be sure you put them in all caps. Or if you have comments that you want me to see. Sometimes it's a little challenging for me to keep up with the chat, because I'm yammering on, talking and carrying on, and trying to keep my thoughts about me, keep the cameras going, watch the chat, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes I will miss a comment or a question. So don't hesitate to ask me again if you need the question. Got a question? I was quite surprised that this worked with the watercolor the way that it did. Pleasantly surprised. But it does just kind of soften that pigment from the pencil and blend it right in. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, on this level, we might put in just a little bit of one of the other colors. This color is lime peel. So we have chartreuse and lime peel. Chartreuse is on the left, lime peel is on the right. Lime peel is a little duller, and so I might put just a little bit of that, just so it's a little different from this level, which is quite yellow-green. I'm telling you, he was a mess. He was a mess, Ruth. This weekend, he was really not feeling good. Not feeling good. He was much better today. All right, let's blend this just a little bit. Sometimes the color really changes with the addition of the paint thinner. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just smooths out a little bit. All right, so that has a little different color, which is good. All right, let's put some color in our windows. You can see the definite difference from these windows up here to these windows right here, which are really super flat. So we're going to put just a little bit of color in here. Very light, because this is a big shift in color from that yellow that I painted in the watercolor as the base coat, going to the sienna brown, which is quite a jump in color. All right, and then let's blend that a little bit. Let's see, I'll use this color. And then we'll come down and we'll work on the stones. I don't know about you guys. I'll ask you if you do this. Last night I was having trouble sleeping, probably because I drank coffee too late, but you know, I was having trouble going I'm okay once I get to sleep, but boy, I was having a hard time falling asleep for some unknown reason. And so what I end up doing is I end up thinking about stuff. And so I thought, well, since I'm not going to sleep right now anyway, I'm going to think about, there was something about this project that I was kind of thinking my way through. And so for I don't know how long I worked on how was I going to decorate the windows? How was I going to decorate the tree? What kind of things was I going to use to decorate the tree? Do you guys ever do that? You like the tree, Mr. Fay? Good. You're still up at 3. Hi, Starla. Good to see you. He did eat some soup. I did have a chat with him about, I think it would be a good idea to wear a mask. There is just so much dust right now. I can't even communicate to you how much dust there is. These people just zoom down this road. I don't know how long this is going to go on. I don't know how long. I hope it doesn't last forever. Anyway, okay, let's go down here to our little tree. We got to fix this little house door situation. All right, so we're going to make this super easy. Really, 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 really easy. I'm going to use this color, which is French Gray. 50% is what I'm using. It's kind of it's a warm gray. And I'm going to put a little bit of this in each one of these stones, kind of like I did the windows. So I'm putting it kind of across the top and down and curve it just a little bit around the bottom. I don't want to put too much in here because if I do, these stones are so tiny, these shapes are so little that what's going to happen is they're all going to just turn one color. Each stone will just turn a color. And that's not what we want. We want to have variety in these little stones. So I'm trying to vary the amounts of color I stick in here. Not much pressure. Okay, not much pressure. And moving quickly. And I'm going to just work on the stones to start with, okay? Just on the little stones. And so then we're going to go to the paint thinner. and smooth out the color, but it doesn't need to be real smooth because these are stones, okay? These are stones. So I don't mind if they have some texture. The watercolor paper texture actually helps with the stones. So it just kind of melts the color in a little bit, but still leaves some of that color, the background color. It leaves some of that in there. And as the paint thinner dries out and evaporates off the paper, you can see how it looks quite different up here. Okay, so we've got that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in something that has a little bit more character. So maybe, what is this? Light umber. So we might put a little bit of light umber, still working on the stones a little bit. Put just a touch of light umber here and there. Not the same amount, not in the same places necessarily, but just add a little bit, and that's going to give us some variety. But I can't emphasize enough, use a light touch when you're putting the Prismacolors on, and probably other brands of colored pencils also that are wax based or oil based. Because any of those that are wax or oil based, if you color with too much pressure, they will burnish the paper, so they're going to become shiny. The paper will become shiny, and once it gets shiny, then it will not accept any more pigment, and you've got so much on there that it sets up some issues for you. And none of us need any more issues. Am I right? Am I right? Hey, Dana. This is paint thinner. This is odorless paint thinner that I have in a little, it happens to be a little pimento jar that I've had forever. I don't even like pimentos, so I don't know why I have it, but anyway. I'll show it to you. It's a little pimento jar. Has a couple of little pieces of sponge in it, that cellulose sponge. You don't need nearly this much paint thinner. It kind of slopped out as I was pouring it in the little jar. This is the paint thinner I'm using. Odorless paint thinner. Do not use regular paint thinner. You need the odorless, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have fumes. So be really careful when you're using it. Really careful when you're using it. That you have ventilation in your room, have a fan going, have plenty of space in your room, and every time you're done dipping your blending stump, touching it to the sponge, put the lid back on it so it helps control and contain some of that. Okay? Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to a dark gray. This color happens to be 90% cool gray. 90% cool gray. I don't know why these companies do all their printing in gold and silver, because it makes them really hard to show and see sometimes. Now this is from the manufacturer. It happens to have a pretty sharp point. In this case, that will help. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come lightly in between the stones, adding a little bit of this. I just didn't want to go straight to black. I just didn't want to go clear into the black tone. Black sometimes is a little tough to control, and so that's why I went to this dark gray. If black is what you have, then that's what you use. Am I right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just putting this in the grout areas between the stones. We all know that there is no such thing as stones on the trunk of a tree, except in the gnomes world, where the gnomes, that's what they have. They have a magical tree. Okay. All right. So we have some of that dark gray, and then we're going to go back to the paint thinner and blend. This time I'm staying away from the stones and blending only the grout. So blending around the stones. If a little bit of it gets on the stones, that's okay, but okay, so there's one side of the door. And I'm actually going to put a little bit of this cool gray under the base of the door, just a little bit of it, because I would like for this to have a little shadow down here. It'll just help anchor our little door a little bit. And realize that you are zoomed way, 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 way in. Thank you, Starla. I have zoomed you way in, super tight. So what you're looking at is not 100% accurate, but I think sometimes it's really good if you can actually have a really tight shot where you can look really close and see what's happening. Okay. All right. So there is our little stonework with the grout around it, and these are blended a little bit differently than these, and that's going to happen if you do it in two different sessions, which I did. So these are a little different than these, but it's all good. It's all good. All right, let's put a little bit of shading in the windows here. And then we'll work on our door just a little bit. So back to the sienna brown. And same thing here. And then I'm going to go to a different color. Let's go to the dark brown on this. We're just going to jump straight to the dark brown and put some color along. This is trim out here. Okay, so I'm going to just put this dark brown all around the door next to the trim. like so. So I've got some color there, and then I'm going to come down I'm going to come on one side of my board lines and under the window. So under the window and down along one side of the board, like so. And I'm going to put some around the door handle, the doorknob. And then I'm going to put just some light kind of scruffy lines coming around this door trim. And I'm going to put some other colors. This is terracotta, so I'm going to put a little bit of terracotta in here so that we get some variety of color. And I need to go check something, and I'll be right back. Okay, so hang on, you guys. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. All right. Sorry, had to test something. I could also do this with ink tints. Yes, you could do the ink tints, and you could use water to blend it. Absolutely. Hello, Butterroll Boutique. I'm not familiar with your name. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Okay, so let's go back to our little door area, and we're gonna do the blendy blend. So I just put the color in the door, and then first of all, I'm going to start with the window. Let's blend the window a little bit. Okay, so we got the window kind of blended in. And let's start with the trim around the door. Now, I want this to be kind of scruffy, so I'm not going to try and smooth it out entirely, because I would like for it to maintain kind of the essence of wood, like so. Okay, so it gives us a little bit of that idea of wood trim. And now, if you want to clean off your blending stump, you can use a paper towel, and then just dip your blending stump in the paint thinner, and then just wipe it on the paper towel until you're not getting any pigment off of it, off the stump. Okay, let's go for the boards of the door. And I am purposely trying to maintain some of the lightness in the boards so that we get definition, and we get it to so it doesn't turn all one color. Because you certainly can accidentally get a little carried away with the paint thinner and the pigment, and you can turn each one of these boards one color, one solid color, and then no bueno, no bueno. Okay, so you got it? Got the idea? All right, now let us zoom out so you can get the whole effect from the way it's going to actually look. Okay, so there's more what it's going to look like. All right. Now, here is the cover of the journal as we left it the other day. And so I have done nothing else to it. It's just the two pieces of fabric on top of a piece of drop cloth, painter's drop cloth, and that's what I used as the background. Put it on here, and then this is going to be where our little tree is going to live, right on there. And I think it's going to be cute. What do you think? Are you liking it? You think it's okay? Okay. At this point, I think what we might do is maybe we'll put some let's put some decoration in the windows. How about that? But it's good if you're going to put it on something like this. It's good to have this available so that you can refer to it and see, test it, see what you think. Is it going to work? Is it going to do whatever? And so far so good. So far so good. All right, I'm going to put the lid on the odorless paint thinner so that I don't have to deal with that anymore. And the next thing we're going to do is I got out some pens, and I have a whole bunch of pens over here. I mean, I have a lot of paint pens and gel pens and all kinds of other pens. And so I think what we're going to do to start with, let's see, what color what size nib do we have here? And a piece of watercolor paper. Alright, this doesn't have a lot of ink in it. It's not very fresh, so that ought to work for this. That ought to work. Okay, I like the little tree stump area where the door is. I like that. I'm good with that. I'm happy about that. All right, let's come up here and let's start up in the attic window up here, and let's put in a wreath. And let's see, there's different ways to do wreaths. It just depends on what you want to do. Let's just, I don't know if we're going to be able to get, this one's not going to work. We're going to have to go to one that has more ink. Okay. So just make some little scraggly looking marks going different directions, kind of a circular sort of form. Same thing here. So kind of make a circular form and then start making the lines go different directions. little short strokes go in different directions. And you'll understand hopefully in a minute. And the wreaths can be different. Sorry, I can't do this and talk very well. Different sizes depending on the window. Okay, so let's say that that's the basis for our wreath. And I'm going to use some Tombow markers. So let's use this green. See if we can get these. I haven't used in so long. Okay, we're going to put some green. And then we'll see if we can find another see if we can find a different color green that nope. Okay, let's try the other tip. Some of these, here we go. This is like everything else on this little piece is going to be suggestion of wreath. You could do the same thing using dots, acrylic paint and dots instead of little marks like this. You could just do little dots. Okay, so we've got essence of wreath going on here. And let's see if we can find a red. We should have a red Posca pen in here that's already open, but I don't seem to see one, so we're going to open this one. So we're going to take the plastic off of this one. This is an extra fine tip. And let's see if we can make this. You got to shake these up enough. Okay. I'm going to shake this up a little bit longer. And then you can decide what you want to do to decorate your wreaths. Do you want holly berries? Or do you want to put a bow? We're just going to put little red baubles in our wreath, which could be berries or they could be, you know, Christmas balls, whatever you want them to be. And I don't think gnomes are known for discretion, and so I think that they would have overkill on their wreaths, don't you? That's what I think. Okay, so that gives us kind of the idea of wreaths. Let's think in terms of some decoration on our branches. And so I was thinking, because if you drink coffee too late and you can't go to sleep, your mind has to paint trees and gnomes and strings of lights and things like that. So I'm going to use a black Posca pen. And so let's see if this, okay, so this is a black 0.7 millimeter tip. So it's different than the red one that I just used. All right, so here's what we're going to do. All right, I'm going to kind of have to go at this a little wonky here. I'm going to just make a kind of a wonky little line, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to endeavor to cross the line. Let's see how to think about this. Like this. As though it were a twisted string of something. Okay, so it's a twisted dealy, twisted string. And then I'm going to use different Posca pens. In different colors. Okay, so these are just different Posca pens, and not necessarily traditional Christmas colors, because the gnomes I'm pretty sure might have helped themselves to other people's I think they might have helped themselves to other people's decorations here and there. So we're going to put where those lines cross. We're going to start dotting in some. Hey, Dorothy. It is late for you, girl. My goodness. It is so late. Okay, that's not going to be a color that's going to show up very well. So let's do maybe this one. Let's see if this one shows. All right, like I said, not traditional Christmas colors, but who cares, right? So if you have any little places where your lines have crossed over and they didn't cross over very neatly, then this is your opportunity to cover those up. So I'm just dotting them here and there. And then let's see, what other colors do we have? let's use that red that I just had and put a few red ones in as well. There might be some holly berries here and there. So these could be lights, they could just be little trims, they could be, who knows what they are, who knows. And so we have some little decorations on the bottom of our branches, and there might be some other ones up in the tree, like for example, this one might be a little bit bigger, and maybe one of these over here. And if they dry out and they're not bright enough, then you can always come back over them for a second coat. So maybe a pink one, and maybe a purple. And then maybe there's another purple one here. And maybe there was a blue one way up here. So that blue is different than the teal color. So we might put some of those. And then once those are dry, then we can outline those and then put a little gold top and a little hanger like it's hanging, a little hook like it's hanging on the tree. Okay? So we can do that. So that's another thing we can do to our little tree to make it appear to be more decorative. Let's see if we can find, here's an 005. So this is a tiny little black pen, and so we can actually outline our little, whatever these are, light bulbs, ornaments, we don't know what they are, with this tiny little fine black pen. Now, these little tiny nibs like this can pretty easily get clogged up, so have a piece of paper off to the side like this and scratch off the nib every so often to keep it clean. It does not matter if you're not exactly on the outline of these little dots that I put on here for ornaments or lights or whatever they are. You're just kind of drawing attention to them and making them to be a little clearer. So I'm going to come across these. It's your tree, it's your little gnome house. And so you can do whatever you want. All right, let's see if we can find a gold pen in this mess that I have going on. Let's see, where is my gold pen? It's here. Here it is. Okay. Even sounds like Christmas. Sounds like jingle bells, doesn't it? Okay, so let's see. Alright, so let's give these little ornaments a little gold top. They don't have to be all headed the same direction because they can be hanging up at different angles. Okay, once those are dry, which they may or may not be, I'm going to outline the top, and then I'm going to put a little hook Alright, outline and a little hook. So it's just suggesting that those little ornaments are hooked into our tree or hooked on the star or hooked over a branch. And the other thing we can do is go under the bottom of the ornament, just in case some of those didn't. I'm trying so hard to talk and do this at the same time. Not terribly successfully, I might add. Okay, so we got a little whimsy thing happening here. Okay. That is so cool, Dorothy. Dorothy still uses some of her decorations when she was a kid. That's great. Now you can do the same thing here. You can put them, start blending the tree together. So you can have decorations on this row of branches hooking into this string of trim or whatever. You can put little bows on your tree. You could put little birds in your tree. You could put all different kinds of things in your tree as you wish, right? I don't know. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking it's kind of cute. I think it's kind of cute. Can you see our little tree? That's our little gnome house. Let's take a look at what it's going to look like when it's on the cover of the journal. One of these days, I got to get these pages ready to go in here. That's a little close for you guys to see. Here we go. Okay, so now you can see more of what it's going to look like. I think it's going to be quite festive, and I think it's going to be pretty cute. What do you think? You like it? You like the lights? Good. I think it'll be fun. So that's why you never get to a point with doing something like this where you go, oh, it looks terrible, it looks ugly, I'm going to start over. No, don't start over. Don't start over. Keep going. One of the things, one of my things is doing mandalas or mandalas or whatever you want to call them. That's one of my things. Most of you know that. And one of the things that I did was as Claus Man was failing, I taught him to do mandalas. And one of the reasons I taught him to do that was, first of all, give him something to do because he was beginning to lose his footing in his surroundings. And so he needed something that was going to kind of anchor him back into the day, the moment. And so I taught him how to do that. The second reason that I did it was I was having him follow my directions to see if he could follow them, because I figured if he could follow them, anybody could follow them. And so he got to where he drew some really nice mandalas, and they actually really helped his handwriting, which was, as long as he was doing them, they helped his handwriting. When he stopped doing them, his handwriting went back to what it was. But it was pretty amazing to see what he did. and how he approached it. But he would always stop at some point and he'd go, I don't like it. I don't like it. It looks terrible. And I'd look at it and I'd say, well, you just stopped too soon. And he'd say, well, I don't know what that means. And so I would always ask, you never touch someone else's art, no matter who it is. You don't touch it and add your stamp on it or your mark on it without asking permission. Even if it's a child, even if it's a little child, you ask. And so I would say, is it okay if I put some marks on it? And he'd say, well, yeah. And so I would start making more marks on it. And then he would go, well, it looks so much better. And all I've done is put more on it. And it's the same kind of thing with this sort of thing. Don't stop too soon. Because if you stop too soon, it looks like it's not finished. So that's what you want to do. This is supposed to be fun. This is a fun project. The gnomes are pretend. The tree is pretend. The book cover's made up. We're making it all up here as we're working through this, because I want you to see my process of, I may think about it for 2 hours in the middle of the night, but I didn't get up and do anything. I just thought about it. But that's what you want to do, is to not stop too soon. If it doesn't look finished is not the right word. If it doesn't look, what word shall we use? If it just feels like you don't know where to go next, that means it's probably not finished. Probably needs more. If it feels like, oh, I don't like it, then it probably needs more. Worst case scenario, you can throw it in the trash and start over, but don't do that too soon. Okay? Dorothy said they always had real candles on their tree. You could put candles on this tree too. Wow. Real candles on the tree. Whew. It does seem a little dangerous. When I was a kid, we had bubble lights. You know what those are? They look kind of like a glass candle. They were bubble lights. And you'd plug them in, turn them on, and there were cloth cords, first of all. And the lights would have to heat up before they'd start bubbling. I just loved bubble lights. I just thought they were great. I just loved them as a kid. Absolutely loved them. They were just mesmerizing to me. But I'm telling you what, those suckers would get so hot. So hot. They have definitely improved lights and bubble lights and all that stuff now. They have improved that stuff so much. Yeah, so much. So, yeah, if you're gonna put any kind of old-fashioned things on your tree, then you're gonna need to be careful. Dorothy, be careful. Okay, so the thing that I was going to do with you guys, which I don't know that I've got it in me to do anymore. She used to watch them like a hawk. It's a good thing. The thing I was going to work on tonight is the Christmas card. I'm honestly not sure I have it in me to work on it. This is the Christmas card image that I'm working on. We did it once over here, and I decided I wanted to do it again. So I have one that's done, but it's not quite what I wanted to have. So I thought, I might do it again. So I did it again. I like his eyes much better on this one. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've got it in me to do it tonight, so I think I'm going to have to wait on that. Today is Monday, and we have a trip we have to make tomorrow evening. It's a possibility that I may come back and stream again later this week, but it will be impromptu. So if you want to turn on your notifications that way, if I do come on, it will alert you. Anyhow. So yeah, I would like to just spend some time just doing the dog, the Christmas card, image for the Christmas card, and just be able to work on the book, the journal again. Anyway, thinking out loud. So if you see me, that's because I came back and worked on it. Anyway, I'm going to take off for tonight. We're almost at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to take off for tonight. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate the fact that you are here. And I hope that you have a really great rest of your, whatever time of day you're watching. I hope you have a good rest of your week, your day, etc. And I will be back. I hope to be back later this week and do some impromptu thing. If not, for sure I'll be here Friday. Okay? All right. Thank you all for being here. Do something nice for somebody else. Dorothy, go to bed, girl. It is late. Go to bed. We're going to have a time change coming up here before long. It will be the first day or first weekend in November. I'll try and tell you ahead of time, but anyway, it's coming up and we're going to fall back. So whatever time this is right now, it's going to be an hour back earlier. Okay? Anyway. All right. We're going to go. I will see you on Friday, if not before. So as always, remember to get creative today, right now, because it's easy. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.